Hey guys, tonight we're unwrapping a piece of history that's richer than your uncle's conspiracy theories at Thanksgiving. When chocolate bars didn't just melt in your mouth, they also gave you a buzz that could launch 1,000 bad decisions. Yes, we're talking about a time when Hershey's chocolate bars contained cocaine. No, this isn't clickbait or the plot of a rejected Scorsese movie. This actually happened. So before you settle in, take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment letting me know where you're listening from. Now, dim those lights, flip on a fan for some white noise, and get as comfortable as possible. Maybe put away any chocolate you have on your nightstand. You'll never look at it the same way again. Let's get curious for a second. What was it like to live in a world where your favorite treat could double as a pre-workout supplement? Did people actually notice their chocolate was extra energizing? Or did they just assume everyone else was also yelling at their furniture? Did Victorian moms hand out Hershey's bars to kids and then wonder why bedtime looked like the monkey exhibit at the zoo? What happened if you brought a Hershey's bar to the office? Did you finish the quarterly report? Or start inventing the fax machine by accident? And what did the factory workers do when they realized the lunch break brownies were causing existential revelations? Congratulations. You've just woken up in the early 1900s. An era when the best part of waking up wasn't just coffee. It was a chocolate bar that could make you believe in your own business ideas. You're about to spend a day in a world where sugar, cocoa, and a sprinkle of South American magic were all part of a balanced breakfast. Good luck. It's the turn of the century, and chocolate is sweeping the nation. Fancier than your neighbor's mustache wax and way more fun at parties. Chocolate bars are the hottest new invention, promising not just deliciousness, but a sense of luxury for everyone who can afford a nickel. Let's set the scene. It's 1901. You're living in a world where most things taste like disappointment, boiled cabbage, or something suspiciously close to shoe leather. The average dessert is bland. The most popular candy is suspiciously sticky. And even fruit comes with seeds that threaten your dental integrity. Suddenly, chocolate arrives on the American market. All glossy wrappers and sugar-dusted promises. It's not just a treat, it's a revolution. Chocolate bars are the iPhones of their era, expensive, slightly mysterious, and guaranteed to make your cousin jealous. Walking into a candy shop is like stepping into the future. The air is thick with the smell of cocoa and melting sugar, enough to make you forget that most people still think indoor plumbing is witchcraft. Storefront windows sparkle with displays, rows of foil-wrapped bars, tins stacked higher than your ambitions, and advertisements claiming that chocolate will make you smarter, stronger, and possibly more attractive. Is it true? Who cares? You buy 3 anyway, knowing full well you'll eat them before you get home. At home, you peel back the crinkly wrapper like you're unwrapping a tiny, edible miracle. For a moment, life's struggles melt away. The landlord's threats, your boss's questionable breath, the fact that your shoes are 30% cardboard. All forgotten, if only for the 2 minutes it takes to devour a bar. This is bliss. This is luxury. This is what it feels like to be a Rockefeller, if the Rockefellers spent their fortunes on snacks and had slightly less complicated hats. But the real magic isn't just in the flavor. It's in the idea of chocolate. Its status as a modern marvel. In an age when most desserts are as exciting as a tax return, chocolate is the star of every occasion. Birthdays, weddings, funerals, nothing says we care like a hastily regifted chocolate bar. You start seeing them everywhere. Newspapers gush about the health benefits. Chocolate soothes the nerves, settles the stomach, and might even cure your existential dread. Doctors recommend it to patients who look too pale, too tired, or too suspiciously cranky. If you have a medical complaint, the answer is chocolate, and maybe a brisk walk, but mostly chocolate. Soon, entire towns become obsessed. Churches host chocolate socials, schools run chocolate fundraisers, and every store in the city suddenly claims to have the original recipe. Housewives whisper about secret bars stashed in sewing kits, and grandfathers keep a private stash behind the good whiskey, strictly for emergencies. The country is in the throes of a chocolate fever, and no one is looking for a cure. If someone throws a party without a chocolate course, neighbors talk for weeks. Sunday school lessons go smoother when there's a Hershey's bar in the teacher's desk drawer. Of course, it isn't all sweet and simple. This is America, after all. With popularity comes drama. Rival chocolate makers start popping up overnight, each one insisting their bar is the purest, creamiest, most life-affirming treat on the market. Lawsuits are filed over trade secrets and wrapper colors. Someone invents a machine that claims to stamp out counterfeit chocolate, a crime so serious you'll be discussing it with your grandchildren right after you explain dial-up internet. In courtrooms, lawyers argue the finer points of cocoa content while snacking discreetly under the table. And just when you think the mania can't get any wilder, you realize not everyone is happy about this new trend. Social reformers begin to grumble about moral decay and tooth rot. Newspaper columnists warn that children are growing restless and unreasonably optimistic. Some claim chocolate is a gateway to jazz music. Others say it'll ruin dinner, destroy your work ethic, and turn the nations into a bunch of slack-jawed, cocoa-addled dreamers. Frankly, you're fine with that. If the price of progress is a sticky-fingered future, so be it. But despite the pearl-clutching, chocolate only gets more popular. By the time you finish your second bar, you're pretty sure you can outrun a trolley and compose a symphony at the same time. Families hoard wrappers, kids swap them like baseball cards, and entire city blocks are united in the pursuit of the next sweet fix. Even the local dentist gets in on the action, handing out prescription chocolate for especially good checkups. So here you are. Turn of the century America, a place where chocolate is new, exciting, and just a little bit scandalous. You eat another square, listen to the distant sound of a player piano, and wonder if anything this delicious could possibly last. Spoiler, not in your hand. End scene with you, satisfied, drifting off with a faint smudge of chocolate on your pillow and dreams of candy fortunes dancing through your head. Let's talk ingredients. You pick up a Hershey's bar, expecting the usual cocoa, sugar, a dash of vanilla. Surprise! There's a little something extra in there, coca leaf extract. Because why just satisfy your sweet tooth when you can also outpace a cheetah? You, standing in a general store, reach for a chocolate bar, blissfully unaware that your innocent craving will soon be joined by a lightning bolt of 1900s science. Hershey's, eager to make their mark in the booming candy market, is not just tossing together cocoa and hope. No. They're following the golden age of food innovation, when experimentation meant throwing all sorts of botanicals into a bubbling vat and seeing what happened next. Sometimes it was vanilla. Sometimes it was, well, cocaine. That's right. Your dessert comes with a dash of pharmacology. Bon appetit. Back then, nobody really bats an eye. The late Victorian era is the age of boldness, mustaches, and a total lack of warning, labels. Hershey's bars join a long list of miracle foods and patent medicines promising to pep you up, boost your mood, and possibly help you survive an unexpected bear attack. It's the original energy bar. If you're feeling tired after a long day at the textile mill, or if you're just trying to make it through your nephew's 6th birthday party, you reach for chocolate. The only side effect? An intense desire to rearrange your furniture and write a strongly worded letter to the mayor. How did this happen? Let's rewind to the humble cocoa bean, and its journey through industrial America. Hershey's founders are looking for a recipe that stands out, a bar that not only melts in your mouth but also melts away your fatigue, your boredom, and maybe some of your sense of proportion. The late 1800s are a time when every new food is a chance to reinvent yourself. Jello salads, health tonics, and canned meat with names that would haunt your dreams all have their place. Hershey's, looking for an edge, turns to Europe for inspiration. In Switzerland and France, chocolatiers are already experimenting with more than just cocoa. European confections are a heady blend of sophistication and science. And the idea of mixing cocoa with chocolate is considered both elegant and just a bit daring. Why not borrow a page from the Continental Playbook and give America a treat with an extra little kick? Enter the coca leaf. Long celebrated in South America for its invigorating effects, coca is added to all sorts of products by the turn of the century. If you've got a headache, low spirits, or a tendency to nap at inopportune moments, there's a coca tonic for that. Coca leaves are showing up in wines, teas, toothache drops, and of course, the original recipe for Coca-Cola. Why not chocolate? You can barely walk down the street without tripping over a new elixir, each one louder than the last about how it will transform your life. Hershey's, never one to miss, a trend, rolls up their sleeves and adds a modest sprinkle of coca leaf extract to the mix. The idea is simple. Chocolate, but better. Chocolate that gives you wings, minus the advertising lawsuit. You take a bite. The taste? Familiar, sweet, creamy, with an undertone of adventure. The effect? Slightly euphoric, definitely energetic, and just enough to make you believe you could start a small business empire or invent a new kind of doorbell. It's a chocolate bar, but it's also an invitation to a livelier, more ambitious you. Productivity shoots up, dinner conversations grow louder, and you find yourself walking to work at twice your normal speed, mostly because you can't sit still. Chocolate is suddenly more than a treat. It's a lifestyle. Workers stash bars in lunch pails for emergencies. Grandmothers swear by their digestive powers. Housewives claim one square can turn laundry day into an adventure. Socialites hand out chocolate bars at parties and wink knowingly at each other. Even your local doctor gets in on the act, recommending a bit of chocolate for nerves and general malaise. Of course, not everything about the recipe is pure genius. The more awake you feel, the less you sleep. Some people claim to see the future after 2 bars. Others simply reorganize their sock drawers at midnight, humming Sousa marches at full volume. There are rumors of entire quilting bees accidentally achieving flight. No one can prove it. But the town chickens start acting very nervous. The local postmaster delivers the mail a day early and spends the afternoon alphabetizing the stamp collection twice. Hershey's is unapologetic. The recipe is a masterpiece of early 20th century optimism. A time when nobody believed in moderation and everyone wanted a little more out of life, preferably in the form of dessert. There's no mystery about why the bars are flying off the shelves. People want their chocolate with a side of risk, their pleasure with a pinch of danger. A little scandalous, a little magical, and a lot of fun. So next time you unwrap a Hershey's, think back to the era when treat yourself meant eat chocolate and see what happens. When the world was faster, the nights were longer, and dessert was the most exciting experiment you'd try all week. Sleep well, knowing your bedtime snack is just chocolate now. Probably. And if you find yourself reorganizing your pantry at 2 a.m., well, maybe history is more delicious and more invigorating than you realized. Long before they were boosting your dessert, coca leaves were sacred to Andean cultures, used for ceremonies, chewed for stamina, and definitely not sprinkled into Hershey bars by bored Pennsylvanians. You're standing on a Peruvian hillside in a world before chocolate bars and food scientists in bow ties. The air is thin, the sun is bright, and everyone around you is chewing on small, slightly bitter green leaves. These aren't just snacks, they're survival. For thousands of years, coca leaves have been the secret weapon of the Andes. Farmers, messengers, even royalty, they all relied on the humble coca leaf to give them the energy to farm steep slopes, run impossible distances, or just stay awake through yet another epic poem about potatoes. In Incan society, coca isn't about parties or productivity hacks. It's sacred. Used in religious rituals, it's offered to the mountains, the sun, and the spirits of ancestors. Need to ask the gods for a good harvest. Offer coca. Need to survive a 16-hour shift building a temple out of stones the size of your hopes and dreams? Chew coca. Need to impress your friends at a festival? Pull out your freshest, greenest leaves and show off your stamina. It's a social flex, a health tonic, and spiritual insurance, all in one. There's even a royal stash reserved for special occasions. Coca leaves picked by moonlight, presented to Incan emperors with reverence, and never to be mistaken for your cousin's everyday chew. Coca leaves are full of alkaloids, nature's little pick-me-up. But don't imagine a crowd of ancient Incans doing the Macarena on a sugar rush. The leaves, when chewed in their natural state, deliver a gentle, steady boost, like a double espresso that lasts all day, minus the existential dread. There's no crashing, no pacing, no regrettable text messages to ex-partners. Just endurance, focus, and a mild sense of being able to outwalk a llama. For an Andean runner tasked with delivering messages over mountains, a wad of coca meant the difference between arriving before sunset and arriving sometime next week. These leaves shaped an empire. Archaeologists find traces of coca in royal tombs, in ceremonial goblets, and in the teeth of commoners. It was payment for labor, an offering at every major festival, and a necessary companion for anyone setting out across the mountains. When the Spanish arrived, they were baffled and, predictably, tried to ban coca, only to realize their own miners wouldn't last an hour in the silver pits without it. Fast forward a few centuries, and the coca leaf is making the long journey from sacred mountain valleys to the bustling cities of Europe and North America. By the mid-1800s, enterprising scientists isolate cocaine from coca because if there's one thing a Victorian loves, it's overcomplicating plants. Suddenly, coca isn't just an Andean secret, it's an international sensation. Pharmacies in Paris sell coca wine, promising to cure everything from shyness to tuberculosis. Invigorating tonics, laced with coca, are all the rage at dinner parties, and nobody's asking too many questions. French doctors prescribe Vin Mariani wine fortified with coca to literary giants, opera singers, and, just for good measure, Pope Leo XIII. Soon enough, American inventors join in. Enter the age of patent medicines, when every bottle at the local pharmacy claims to be a miracle in a glass. Coca leaf extract finds its way into toothache drops, cough syrups, nerve tonics, and, famously, soda fountains. It's a golden age for invigorating everything. If you're tired, blue, or just a little bored, there's a coca solution with your name on it. And if you're a candy maker looking to corner the market, you start to wonder, what would happen if we put this stuff in chocolate? Enter the chocolate makers. Always on the hunt for new flavors, new sensations, and new ways to one-up the competition, they spot an opportunity. If coca can turn an average wine into a miracle elixir, why not try it in chocolate? Chocolate already has a reputation as an energizing, slightly decadent treat. Adding coca is like putting rocket fuel in a horse-drawn carriage. And just like that, the sacred leaf of the Andes finds itself starring in candy bars, nestled between sugar and cocoa butter. Destined for lunchboxes, parlors, and that one uncle who's always starting a side business. By the time Hershey's gets involved, Coca's journey from holy offering to factory ingredient is complete. In the hands of American food engineers, it becomes a carefully measured extract, just enough to make your chocolate bar feel like a good idea at 9 p.m. on a work night. The original Incan traditions? Lost somewhere between the factory floor and the advertising department, which is currently brainstorming slogans like the bar that keeps you awake, alive, and aggressively optimistic. Meanwhile, no one is offering a prayer to the mountain spirits, unless you count nervous workers hoping their boss won't notice how fast they're wrapping bars today. Was it historically inevitable? Maybe. Humans have always had a soft spot for plants that make life less exhausting. And in an era when people believed that any natural product must be good for you, nobody's too worried about what's actually in their treat. As long as it helps them finish building the railroad, writing the great American novel, or just sitting through another family dinner. So, next time you hear someone romanticizing all natural ingredients, remember the humble coca leaf, revered by the Incas, reimagined by industrialists, and ultimately immortalized in the chocolate bars that powered a nation straight through bedtime. The journey from sacred ritual to snack time afterthought might not make the wrapper, but the story is every bit as remarkable as the sugar rush. Victorian-era science, a magical time when invigorating meant putting a little something in everything. Chocolate, wine, cough syrup, if it didn't make your heart race, was it even medicine? Hershey's was right on trend. Let's set the scene. It's the late 19th century, and science is all the rage. People trust science so much that they'll try anything as long as it sounds vaguely experimental or has a man in a lab coat involved. The world is teeming with new inventions: electric lights, the telephone, pants with actual zippers. Progress is the day's favorite word. And every dinner conversation is peppered with talk of germ theory, radium, and whether it's really safe to put batteries so close to your pocket. And right in the middle of this frenzy, the invigorating snack craze is born. You, standing in a pharmacy turned grocery store, are spoiled for choice. Shelves groan under the weight of colorful bottles, powders, and unpronounceable tonics. Labels scream, stimulates the nerves, energizes the blood, gives new life to the listless. If you're feeling sluggish, unmotivated, or just have a bad case of the Mondays, you could grab a hot cocoa, a stick of gum, or a chocolate bar, all boasting mysterious energizing properties. Actual ingredients? None of your business. The label says scientific, so it must be fine. This is the golden age of the patent medicine industry, a lawless candyland where marketing runs wild and regulations are mostly just polite suggestions. Chemists and doctors armed with beards and enthusiasm are mixing up batches of what they promise is a cure for whatever ails you, and the public, hopeful and exhausted, lines up to buy. In this world, invigorating snacks aren't a luxury. They're self-care. The modern concept of energy drinks starts here. Only back then, they come in glass bottles, tins, and, for the truly bold, chocolate bars. The logic is simple. You feel tired, you eat a snack, you suddenly feel not tired. This is considered cutting-edge science, second only to leaching and the therapeutic use of magnets. Hershey's, never one to miss a trend, jumps right in. If their competitors are promising energy, why not make chocolate the ultimate pick-me-up? It's tasty, it's modern. And now, thanks to the marvels of chemistry, it might also help you finish knitting that 12-foot scarf in record time. Doctors join the parade. Medical journals, already enthusiastic about anything new, publish glowing reviews of snacks that claim to soothe the nerves while awakening the faculties. There are testimonials, nervous salesmen, exhausted teachers, harried mothers and grandfathers who haven't napped since the Lincoln administration, all praising the restorative powers of the modern candy bar. You imagine a Victorian dinner party. Everyone nibbling at their chocolate, eyes growing wider, conversations getting louder, and the night ending with an impromptu poker in the drawing room. Advertising is key. Posters depict sprightly children bounding over fences, office workers cheerfully calculating rows of numbers, and athletes vaulting over hurdles with chocolate bar wrappers fluttering in the breeze. Some ads even feature prominent men of science, real or otherwise, assuring the public that these snacks are the safest way to avoid melancholy, exhaustion, and falling behind in modern life. It's only a matter of time before someone claims chocolate can cure bad handwriting and help you win at chess. Housewives and shopkeepers become true believers. Invigorating becomes the most important word in every pantry. Children are handed chocolate for their nerves, and Grandpa insists on a square for circulation before checkers. If anyone doubts the magic, the family doctor is on hand to write an enthusiastic prescription, sometimes literally on a chocolate wrapper. Of course, the real science is a little more suspect. Lab tests mostly consist of eating half a bar and seeing who can run up the most flights of stairs before their monocle falls off. Side effects are often ignored. Who cares about a little heart palpitations when you're getting so much done? If anyone asks questions, you just point to the word invigorating on the label and declare the matter settled. Occasionally, a story makes the rounds about someone who ate a whole bar and stayed up for 3 days painting the parlor. These tales are not considered cautionary. They are inspirational. Whole towns develop reputations for their productive spirit, fueled largely by the collective chocolate stash. And when, inevitably, someone suggests moderation, the idea is laughed out of the room by a crowd with chocolate-stained fingers and ambitious to-do lists. Even as regulations begin to creep in, the appetite for science-backed snack remains. Hershey's is at the center of it all. Every bar, a tiny miracle. Every wrapper, a promise that the future is bright, energetic, and, preferably, covered in chocolate. So, in the glorious, chaotic heyday of invigorating snacks, Hershey's is leading the charge. A sweet, chocolatey miracle, sold by the pound and backed by the boldest science 1897 has to offer. Snack on, good citizen. Sleep is overrated anyway, and if your heart is racing just a bit, remember, that's not a bug, it's a feature. Forget Red Bull. In 1905, if you wanted to pick me up, you just grabbed a chocolate bar and waited for the world to speed up. Hershey's didn't advertise the buzz, but they didn't have to. Word spread faster than the sugar crash. You, a respectable grown-up with a pocket watch and deeply held opinions about the proper length of trouser cuffs, find yourself lingering in the sweets aisle. Candy, you're told, is for children. It's childish, frivolous. The sort of thing best left to sticky-fingered schoolboys and little girls with hair ribbons. But look around, and you'll notice something odd. The adults are buying chocolate too. In fact, some of them are buying a lot of chocolate. You spot your neighbor, Mr. Higgins, an accountant so boring that his houseplants have been known to yawn, tucking a suspiciously large number of Hershey's bars into his basket. He glances around, shrugs, and grabs another. This isn't about flavor. Not entirely. There's something different about these bars. Something that makes adults come back, again and again, with a suspicious glimmer in their eyes. After lunch, after work, in the middle of a tedious church committee meeting, out comes the chocolate. Not in fun-size squares. Either. Grown men and women are discreetly snapping off pieces during city council. behind ledgers, and at bridge clubs. Some people say it's the sugar. Some claim it's the new creamy recipe. But the truth is quietly, chemically, exhilarating. If you know, you know. After a few bites, you're not just satisfied, you're energized. The sort of energy that makes you consider alphabetizing your receipts, writing letters to estranged cousins, or repainting the barn just because it's Tuesday. You are, for lack of a better term, feeling good. It's not exactly a high, and not quite the way you feel after a third cup of coffee. It's brighter. The world seems sharper. Even the horse-drawn trolleys look like they're going a little faster. Word gets out. Chocolate isn't just a treat for the end of the day. It's a secret weapon. Factory workers eat a bar before their shift and report record levels of pep. Store clerks munch a square to make it through the afternoon rush, which suddenly feels like a parade instead of a siege. Ministers discreetly nibble chocolate before sermons, causing parishioners to wonder why this week's homily is delivered at double speed. The local postmaster has never sorted mail so quickly or so alphabetically. One insurance agent claims he processed a decade's worth of claims in a single afternoon and still had time to walk home the long way. With adults hooked, chocolate bars go from childish indulgence to respectable grown-up essential. It's now perfectly normal for the most upstanding citizen to order a dozen for the road. For the children, they say. But everyone knows those bars are being rationed out at the poker table and shared among fellow PTA members after the meeting. It's the early 1900s, and candy has become the world's most respectable vice. Magazines start publishing features on the modern working man's snack. Chocolate is described as stimulating but gentle, bracing but wholesome, and an aid to the efficient American. Some even recommend a square with your morning toast for vitality. Sales soar. Candy shops do brisk business, and even the most hard-nosed city officials are seen smiling more than usual, their pockets bulging ever so slightly. By now, nobody bats an eye if the mayor polishes off an entire bar at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, or if the fire chief hands out chocolate as a reward for the best-kept fire hose. Even the advertising leans in. Posters show serious men with bowler hats and impressive sideburns, conquering their workday with the help of America's premier adult tonic. Society columns hint at ladies' clubs serving chocolate alongside their sherry and gossip. Travel writers rave about the pick-me-up that turns a dreary train ride into an adventure in productivity. Not everyone is convinced. Old-timers grumble that too much chocolate will rot your wits or cause you to forget your place in society. The local chess club briefly bans snacks after a series of overly enthusiastic checkmates. But for every warning, a dozen more people are chewing their way into a slightly more cheerful afternoon. The stigma fades. Chocolate is now for everyone. Man, woman, schoolchild, or mayor. Even the town undertaker is rumored to keep a bar in his desk, just to keep things lively. There are still a few holdouts, the purists who insist that an apple a day is all you need, or the rare soul who claims to prefer licorice. But even they can't deny the way chocolate has quietly taken over the boardroom, the classroom, and even the courtroom. When the judge calls for a recess, half the gallery heads straight for the nearest candy counter. So, as you slip another square into your mouth and get ready to reorganize the shed, remember, in the golden age of respectable buzz, everyone's just one chocolate bar away from greatness, or at least a very tidy garage. And if you notice your neighbor painting his house for the third time this month, you'll know exactly what's fueling his ambition: parents, giving chocolate to children since time immemorial. But these kids are on another level. Hide and seek turns into sprinting marathons, and bedtime stories sound like auctioneers on espresso. Imagine it's a brisk afternoon in 1910. You're a child with knee socks up to your shins and more buttons on your shirt than a modern TV remote. In your pocket, a glorious, slightly squashed Hershey's bar. Your friends gather in a loose circle under the willow tree. Someone shouts, "Last one to the fence is a rotten egg," and suddenly, it's less of a game and more of a community track meet sponsored by the local confectioner. Chocolate, once a rare treat reserved for Christmas and family reunions, has become an everyday staple. Your parents, eager to show their modern sensibilities, buy chocolate bars for the kids. They hand them out after chores, before Sunday school, and, on especially reckless days, just before bedtime. The logic is flawless. Nothing says parenting like giving your children a mildly stimulating, sugar-packed snack right before expecting them to sit still. You, of course, love it. One square, and you feel like you could run to Cleveland and back. Homework is finished in record time, with penmanship that could be described as experimental, and even the family dog starts looking nervous. Indoor voices become a myth. Your sibling invents a game called human pinball, which mostly involves bouncing off furniture at increasing speeds. Grandma, clutching her pearls, wonders if she should call a priest, or at least invest in heavier curtains. Teachers, meanwhile, face a daily onslaught of enthusiasm. School is now less a temple of learning and more a high-stakes obstacle course. The morning lesson is interrupted by spontaneous recitations, interpretive dances, and the occasional foot race around the cloakroom. Miss Wilkins, the long-suffering teacher, gives up on spelling tests and focuses on not losing anyone out the second-story window. She drinks a lot of soothing tea and dreams of early retirement. Recess, once a gentle hour of skipping rope and hopscotch, becomes an extreme sport. Kids scale fences, invent entirely new ball games, and negotiate complicated trades involving marbles, aggies, and the ever-coveted chocolate bar wrapper. Lunchboxes rattle with candy bars, sometimes hidden in a secret compartment between the liverwurst sandwich and the emergency carrot stick, never to be eaten. Bedtime is now an Olympic event. Parents line up. Children brush teeth at speeds previously reserved for competitive rowing, and pajamas are donned with the efficiency of a fire brigade. Story time, theoretically a moment for winding down, turns into a competitive sport. Every child wants to tell their version of the day, usually at the same time and at triple speed. Once upon a "Did you see the Mom? Did you know that if you run fast enough you can look at my drawing?" By the time the lights go out, the room hums with residual energy, like a beehive in a thunderstorm. But no one really minds. After all, this is the new age. Progress, excitement, modernity. If a few lamps get knocked over, if a few pairs of shoes are mysteriously left on the neighbor's roof, it's just the price of raising an energetic, forward-thinking generation. Chocolate bars, once a rare luxury, are now the fuel for tomorrow's leaders, inventors, and probably the world's fastest hopscotch champions. And as you finally drift off, heart still tapping out a ragtime tune, you dream of tomorrow's adventures and maybe, just maybe, another piece of chocolate with breakfast. The golden age of candy isn't just changing snacks, it's redefining childhood, one hyperactive afternoon at a time. Inside the Hershey's factory, workers mix, stir, and sample. No one questions why lunch breaks are so productive, or why Bob, in shipping, has started speaking in Morse code. Let's clock in. It's 1908, and you work at the Hershey's chocolate factory, a sprawling wonderland of whirring machines, endless conveyor belts, and the unmistakable aroma of cocoa that seeps into your hair, skin, and soul. Your morning starts before sunrise, because Milton Hershey, the Willy Wonka of Pennsylvania, believes in punctuality, good nutrition, and employees who can sprint between vats without tripping over their own optimism. You button your starched shirt, join the other workers shuffling through the front gate, and inhale deeply. Chocolate, sugar, and just the faintest hint of something sharper, like ambition, or possibly an invigorating extract no one talks about openly. Air vibrates. You tell yourself it's excitement, but it might be the caffeine and coca leaves drifting from the mixing room. Your job title is General Operator, which means you do everything. 1 hour you're pouring cream into copper kettles, the next you're scraping cocoa off the floor with a special patented chocolate shovel. The pace is relentless. You keep up, mostly because you don't want to be trampled by Ethel, who can carry 3 sacks of sugar at once and still find time to hum ragtime tunes at 120 beats per minute. Everywhere you look, someone's in motion. The chocolate must be tempered, mixed, aerated, and poured into shiny new bar molds at top speed. Conveyor belts roll faster than you'd think is safe, churning out thousands of bars an hour. There's little room for error. The supervisors, clipboard-wielding men with moustaches you could hang a coat on, watch for mistakes with eagle eyes and suspiciously jittery hands. Sampling is part of the job. Every so often, a foreman hands you a fresh bar and says, "Quality control." You take a bite. It's rich, creamy, and oddly energizing. By your third sample, your handwriting is illegible, and you're considering retiling your kitchen tonight just for fun. The factory hums with energy. Workers swap theories about who can wrap the most bars per minute, or who once accidentally invented fudge by mixing up the sugar bins. Betty, from packaging, claims she solved a crossword puzzle just by staring at a Hershey's bar for 20 minutes. Breaks are legendary. The lunchroom becomes a scene from a slightly unhinged vaudeville show. Bob from shipping is doing the Charleston. Someone else is juggling apricots. And the local preacher, on quality inspector duty, leads an impromptu chorus of Sweet Adeline. The chocolate bars flow freely. Nobody asks why people keep inventing new dance moves or why the boss's record player is set to ludicrous speed. There are rumors. Some say the night shift once finished a 12-hour run, then cleaned the entire factory top to bottom before walking home and re-shingling their own roofs. One worker claims she wrote an entire novel on the back of a payroll slip, inspired by the world's liveliest snack. Others whisper that the real secret to Hershey's success isn't just the recipe, but the unstoppable, mildly vibrating workforce powering the whole enterprise. Of course, not every day is perfect. There are mishaps, a chocolate avalanche here, a sugar explosion there, someone accidentally energizing the company cat. But overall, morale is sky high. Productivity charts are drawn in zigzags. At the end of each shift, workers stagger out into the twilight, clutching their pay envelopes and leftover bars, exhausted but strangely cheerful, like they've just survived a friendly tornado. So you hang up your apron, wash cocoa from your hair, and walk home a little quicker than yesterday. Tomorrow, you'll do it all again. More chocolate, more music, more accidental raves, making the world's most famous snack, one energetic shift at a time. Hershey's had competition. So did every other candy maker in town. To get noticed, you had to promise more than sweetness. You had to offer energy, health, and maybe a touch of why am I vibrating. It's 1911, and you're not just an ordinary chocolate fan. You're a discerning customer living through the golden age of advertising. Every street corner seems to have its own candy shop, each display window more outrageous than the last. Towering pyramids of bars, spinning signs, and window dressers pulling overtime to make cocoa look like the elixir of life. You stroll down Main Street, and the pitches come at you faster than a child on their third chocolate bar of the day. One billboard insists that chocolate is the snack of champions, with a drawing of a heroic-looking man, biceps bulging, wielding a bar like Excalibur. Another claims Hershey's, the gentle stimulus for delicate nerves. The next window over, a rival boasts, eat Swift's Choco, force, outrun fatigue, outlast time. You start to wonder if eating a chocolate bar will let you leap over a hay wagon or just give you the courage to talk to your barber about that unfortunate haircut. The ad copywriters are in their prime, cunning, creative, and possibly just a little too enthusiastic about their own product samples. Posters scream about vim and pep and zest, all qualities that, until now, you never realized were missing from your dessert. There are illustrated testimonials from famous explorers, marathon runners, and local school teachers. After just one Hershey's bar, I graded 200 arithmetic tests and still had time to invent a new form of multiplication. In the newspapers, half-page spreads debate the virtues of different bars. Should you choose one for its creamy finish or its unrivaled briskness? Some bars boast of healthful botanicals, which is code for if you start seeing colors, please write us a letter. One brand even features a before and after illustration. Before chocolate, sad, pale, slumping. After chocolate, vigorous, rosy, somehow 4 inches taller. Candy makers don't stop at print. They take to the streets. Promotional wagons roll into town squares, handing out free samples to crowds of children and grown-ups who will definitely try just one. Chocolate-themed parades, complete with costumed cocoa beans, snake through cities while marching bands play suspiciously fast marches. Step right up and try the newest, most invigorating bar this side of the Mississippi. The competition is so fierce that someone starts a rumor about a candy bar with real gold inside. The search for the golden ticket begins a generation early, resulting in disappointed teeth and at least one cracked molar. Meanwhile, inside the companies, marketing departments become battlefields. Executives hold meetings over stacks of rejected slogans. Hershey's, unwrap, happiness, and maybe a little bit of trembling. Swift's, chocolate so good you'll forget what sadness is. Artists, high on cocoa fumes and deadlines, churn out new mascots, a sprinting rabbit, a somersaulting squirrel, and for reasons no one can explain, a dancing boot. Of course, the public loves every second. Kids save wrappers, adults debate the merits of various invigorating formulas, and local doctors are besieged by patients who want to know if their pep levels are adequate. The only thing more energetic than the chocolate is the conversation about chocolate. You, caught in the middle of this marketing mayhem, can't help but grin. In a world where every treat promises more speed, more strength, more vim, one thing is certain. Nobody's getting bored, and nobody's falling asleep at the back of the candy store. At least, not until the chocolate wears off. It wasn't just candy, it was a health food. Doctors recommended cocoa for digestion, energy, and mild melancholia. Hershey's bars. Now with vitamins, minerals, and the possibility of minor hallucinations. Welcome to the era when the line between doctor and candy salesman is blissfully blurry. You're at your annual checkup, and instead of a grim lecture about vegetables or a terrifying jar of leeches, the doctor writes you a prescription for, wait for it, chocolate. He folds up the paper with a wink and quietly adds, try not to eat the whole bar at once, unless you're planning on walking to Pittsburgh tonight. You leave the office with a spring in your step and a medically justified excuse for every chocolate stain on your collar. This is a golden age for wellness. Health advice is a heady blend of genuine science, wishful thinking, and marketing that could sell sand in the Sahara. The public is hungry for answers, and, conveniently, also for snacks. Into this world steps chocolate, a product of exotic lands, rich in cocoa, and now rumored to have medicinal powers. The moment someone in a white coat says therapeutic value, the entire nation collectively decides that chocolate is basically a vegetable. Your neighbor's medicine cabinet now contains not just headache powders and questionable cough syrups, but also a box of chocolate bars. He claims he needs one after every stressful day at work, which, by coincidence, seems to be every single day. The local pharmacist stocks Hershey's bars between the camphor oil and the castor oil, and the display case features pamphlets: chocolate for vigor, the tonic for tired mothers, and recommended by 5 out of 5 physicians who like chocolate. Advertisements echo the new health craze. One promises that Hershey's soothes the nerves, restores youthful energy, and promotes regularity, because nothing says modern medicine like a dessert that keeps your spirits, and possibly your intestines, in top shape. Another assures that a square after every meal will ensure a pleasant disposition and a swift return to productivity. If you can't sleep, eat chocolate. If you can't wake up, eat chocolate. If you feel blue, anxious, or have a neighbor who looks at you funny, chocolate is the answer. Chocolate's health benefits even make their way into the classroom. School teachers are known to hand out squares for focus and calm, and mothers pack a little extra in lunchboxes for strength. There are rumors that certain forward-thinking employers keep a tin of cocoa bars in the office for staff morale, and perhaps to distract everyone from the fact that vacation days don't exist. This is also the age of testimonials. Newspapers print stories about the man who ate a Hershey's bar before running his best mile, the housewife who single-handedly hosted a luncheon for 17 after a medicinal dose, and the child whose academic marks mysteriously improved after a week of cocoa therapy. Doctors themselves become chocolate's greatest champions, sometimes accepting honorary samples for their efforts. Medical conferences debate the best dose, while one ambitious dentist quietly invents the world's first guilt-free toothpaste. Of course, not everyone is convinced. Some skeptical souls mutter about overstimulation, agitation, and the curious case of the vibrating piano teacher. But the voices of caution are drowned out by the delightful sound of unwrapping foil and the collective sigh of contentment that follows. So you indulge. You recommend chocolate to friends and family with the confidence of a seasoned health expert. If someone questions your snack, you simply reply, "Doctor's orders," because in this golden age of medical optimism, health is sweet, happiness is wrapped in silver, and the only real side effect is running out of chocolate before your next appointment. Hershey's wasn't alone. Coca-Cola was in on the act too. If you needed a pick-me-up in 1910, your options included soda, chocolate, and a brief but meaningful relationship with your ceiling fan. Let's rewind to the bustling, noisy streets of early 20th century America. The world is changing at breakneck speed. Horses are giving way to automobiles, telegraphs are being replaced by telephones, and everywhere you look, people are drinking, eating, and, let's be honest, slightly vibrating. It's not just chocolate fueling this energy. It's the dawn of the fizzy drink revolution, and leading the charge is none other than Coca-Cola. You, an upstanding citizen with a keen interest in modern refreshments, stroll into the corner pharmacy, which doubles as the neighborhood soda fountain. Behind the marble counter, a white-aproned soda jerk wields his glass bottles like a maestro. He asks, "The usual?" and you nod, secretly hoping today's usual will make the afternoon board meeting feel like a vaudeville show. Coca-Cola, invented just a few decades earlier, is taking the country by storm. Its original formula isn't just carbonated water and syrup. It's a secret blend featuring coca leaf extract. Yes, that coca. And a healthy dose of caffeine. Early advertisements promise to cure headaches, lift moods, and invigorate the body and mind. It's not just a drink, it's a lifestyle, an all-American panacea for sluggishness and social anxiety. And then there's chocolate, your other favorite vice. You quickly realize that between Hershey's bars and a glass of Coke, you can achieve a kind of alertness usually reserved for barn cats during thunderstorms. It's not long before people start experimenting. A bite of chocolate, a sip of soda, another bite, another sip. Are you transcending reality? Not quite, but you're definitely writing longer letters and tapping your foot to music you can barely hear. The two titans, Hershey's and Coca-Cola, don't see each other as rivals. Not yet. In fact, the era is all about synergy. Drugstores proudly sell both chocolate bars and soda by the case. And some particularly inspired souls start crumbing their candy directly into their drinks, hoping to discover the next great American invention. Spoiler, the result is mostly sticky but memorable. Both companies lean hard into their invigorating image. Coca-Cola ads feature sparkling, well-dressed men and women, all beaming with the joy of superior hydration and barely contained nervous energy. Hershey's, meanwhile, quietly pushes the idea that a chocolate bar is the snack of achievers. Soon, even the most ordinary day, waiting for a train, standing in line, or planning your next big business scheme, becomes an opportunity for a legal, tasty pick-me-up. Every office, train car, and school picnic features at least one person armed with a bottle of soda and a pocketful of chocolate. Productivity goes up, patience goes down, and by all accounts, so does the national average for afternoon naps. People start making bold decisions, opening shops, writing novels, and rearranging living rooms, all powered by a 1-to-2 punch of sugar, caffeine, and coca. Of course, not everyone is thrilled. Some hand-wringing social reformers warn of a nation on the brink of perpetual stimulation. Doctors write op-eds about overactive digestion. One preacher famously declared that America is turning into a land of jittery, wide-eyed dreamers. But by the time anyone finishes reading those editorials, they've usually already lost their train of thought and wandered off for a snack. So here you are, an American in 1910, living large, moving fast, and embracing the bold new world of candy bars and carbonated dreams. Whether you're in it for the flavor or the fizz, you know one thing for sure. With Hershey's and Coca-Cola, life is never, ever dull, and sleep is mostly theoretical. Patent medicines are everywhere, promising relief for headaches, nerves, and bad moods. Hershey's chocolate fits right in. Who needs a pharmacy when you have a candy counter? It's 1907, and you can't walk a block in any American city without being assaulted by the sight of apothecaries, tonic peddlers, and brightly painted wagons selling bottles with more claims than a carnival barker. Guaranteed to restore vigor, cures what ails you, safe for children and horses. It's the golden age of patent medicine, when hope comes in a bottle, or, increasingly, in a chocolate bar. You, like everyone else, are bombarded with advertisements promising that relief from exhaustion, worry, and vague nervous conditions is just a sweet treat away. Your local newspaper is full of testimonials from grateful citizens who cured their spleen pain with Dr. Wadsworth's magical elixir and their melancholia with an after-dinner Hershey's. For the low price of a nickel, you too can experience renewed youth and focus, with no prescription and, more importantly, no judgment. Pharmacies catch on fast. Where once the counter held jars of camphor, quinine, and mysterious powders, now there's a shelf just for chocolate. Medicinal cocoa bars stand shoulder to shoulder with cough drops and liver pills. Some brands don't even pretend anymore. Labels shout, Hershey's, now fortified for vitality, or eat Choco, relief and let the worries melt away. Your pharmacist, a serious man with wild eyebrows and a truly impressive collection of bow ties, nods sadly when you buy 2 bars. For your nerves, I presume, chocolate becomes the panacea for modern life. Overworked? Chocolate. Heart palpitations? Chocolate. Can't sleep? Also chocolate, somehow. There are pamphlets distributed to busy mothers, promising a piece of chocolate for calm hands and happy homes. Men are told that a bar after supper will restore masculine energy. Children are given squares to soothe the growing mind. And if you're still not convinced, the wrapper suggests you write the company for a free booklet on the science of cocoa and the human temperament. No one's really sure what that means, but it sounds reassuring. Behind the scenes, candy makers are delighted. Chocolate, once a treat, is now a lifestyle. It's dispensed alongside powders, tablets, and tonics in a beautiful, buzzing symphony of hope and commerce. The public laps it up, sometimes literally. Even the most hard-nosed cynics find themselves rationalizing their daily indulgence. "It's for my constitution," they mumble, smearing a little chocolate on their best shirt. "Doctor's orders," they say, waving away concerned relatives. Of course, some of the medicinal benefits are, let's say, optimistic. The only thing chocolate reliably cures is a lack of chocolate. But in a world where medical knowledge is still catching up with marketing, that's hardly the point. You start to notice more people smiling at work, humming on streetcars, or power walking through parks. Maybe it's the chocolate. Maybe it's the placebo effect. Or maybe, just maybe, everyone's a little bit buzzed and loving it. Not everyone is on board. There are critics, the odd sourpuss physician or temperance advocate, who mutter darkly about overindulgence, weakened willpower, and uncontrollable giggling fits in church. But for every naysayer, there are 100 chocolate converts singing the praises of their new miracle snack. So you tuck a bar into your pocket, just in case. You recommend chocolate to your friends as a remedy. You join a nation of hopeful patients, armed not with syrups or tonics, but with something sweeter, simpler, and just as full of promise. In this candy-coated chapter of history, wellness never tasted so good, and nobody's asking too many questions. When World War I rolls around, Hershey's bars are sent to soldiers overseas, because nothing says fight for freedom like a ration that doubles as a motivational speech in edible form. You're a young soldier in 1917, boots caked in mud, helmet a little too big, standing somewhere in France and thinking about home. The world has gone mad. Trenches, artillery, endless drizzle, and the persistent suspicion that your socks will never be dry again. The days are long, the food is questionable, and your only entertainment is trying to guess what today's canned mystery meat actually was in a previous life. But there's hope. There's chocolate. Enter Hershey's, the unlikely hero of the battlefield. Back home, Milton Hershey receives a request from the U.S. Army. They need a ration that doesn't spoil, doesn't melt too quickly, and can lift morale faster than a brass band at sunrise. Hershey delivers, literally, boxes of chocolate bars, carefully wrapped and packed, make the voyage across the Atlantic. For many soldiers, opening a ration kit to find a Hershey's bar is better than mail from home, payday. Or that rare moment when the soup is actually warm. You peel open the wrapper, and for a moment, the war vanishes. The smell of cocoa and sugar cuts through the stench of mud, socks, and whatever is growing in the bottom of the trench. Each bite is a taste of normal life, a tiny rebellion against misery. Your friends swap chocolate like currency. "I'll give you my cigarettes for half a bar, 2 cans of beans for a full one." In the trenches, chocolate is better than gold and twice as likely to improve your mood. Hershey's becomes a silent cheerleader, a compact piece of America in every pocket. The bars are so popular that commanders start using them as rewards. Good job fixing the radio, Private. Here's your bonus. Outstanding bravery under fire, have a square. Sometimes, a Hershey's bar is the only thing standing between a weary platoon and absolute despair. Letters home are filled with requests. Send more socks. And chocolate. Mostly chocolate. But it's not just about comfort. Chocolate is fuel, literal energy for exhausted bodies. Marching, digging, or running for cover burns calories at a shocking rate. Soldiers need quick, reliable food that fits in a pocket and can be eaten on the move. Hershey's bars deliver. Some men claim they can march an extra mile on chocolate alone. Whether or not it's scientifically true, no one's about to argue with a motivated soldier. Back in Pennsylvania, the factory works overtime. The war effort means new recipes. Bars with less sugar. Bars that withstand summer heat. Bars packed in special wrappers so they won't turn into pudding before they reach the front. There are entire assembly lines devoted to making Field Ration D, a chocolate so dense and durable it's jokingly called edible armor. It's not gourmet, but it's nourishment, and, more importantly, a connection to home. Even after the war, Hershey's military legacy continues. Veterans return with stories of chocolate-fueled adventures. The midnight march powered by a single square. The bitter cold broken by a shared bar. The friendships cemented over one last wrapper. Hershey's is no longer just candy. It's a symbol of survival and camaraderie. So the next time you unwrap a bar, remember, you're holding a piece of history, a bite-sized reminder of courage, endurance, and the strange, sweet power of chocolate to lift the human spirit. Even when the world seems determined to melt everything down, on the battlefield or in your living room, that's a snack worth savoring. Some people notice the chocolate is a little different. Energy, alertness, mild existential dread, just another day at the office, thanks to America's favorite candy bar. You've bought your first Hershey's bar, and you're excited, maybe too excited. The wrapper crinkles with promise as you break off a square and pop it in your mouth. The taste is sweet, creamy, and deeply satisfying, but that's just the beginning. A few minutes later, you notice something odd. Your feet are tapping. Your mind is racing. Did you always have this many thoughts about weather patterns? You're pretty sure you could alphabetize your entire recipe collection in the time it takes your neighbor to finish a cup of tea. You're not alone. All across America, people are beginning to notice that Hershey's bars don't just taste good, they do something. Shopkeepers find themselves restocking shelves twice as fast, humming along to imaginary music. Housewives discover a sudden urge to reorganize every cupboard in the house and dust the baseboards for the third time this week. Children on the playground are inventing new games involving more running, more yelling, and, occasionally, spontaneous attempts to jump over garden hedges. There's talk in the office, too. The bookkeeper, who usually speaks in a slow monotone, is suddenly dictating numbers faster than his assistant can write. The boss, previously a model of mid-morning lethargy, now strides through the office like a man with somewhere better to be. "It must be the chocolate," whispers one clerk, who's been nervously rearranging paper clips for the past hour. Everyone nods. They all had a bar with lunch. Newspapers pick up on the trend. "America's favorite treat doubles as pick-me-up," trumpets one headline. Letters to the editor pour in. Mrs. Tuttle from Ohio reports that she finished knitting an entire sweater in a single afternoon. Powered by Hershey's. A school principal in Indiana wonders if chocolate might be the solution to sluggish spelling bees. Results: inconclusive. Students can now spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, but have lost interest in sitting down. Not everyone's thrilled. Grandparents mutter that today's candy is too stimulating, as if Hershey's has somehow turned ordinary citizens into jittery, wide-eyed philosophers. One father suspects the chocolate is responsible for his son's sudden decision to invent something called rocket shoes. There are a few nervous mothers convinced the family cat has started telepathic communication, but that may be unrelated. The local medical community weighs in. Doctors, at least. The ones who haven't started eating chocolate themselves note a marked increase in energy, alertness, and minor fidgeting. Some warn of restless nights and unexpected bursts of enthusiasm. Others simply recommend moderation, which is promptly ignored by everyone who's ever tried ignoring a chocolate craving. Even pets seem affected. Dogs, previously content to nap by the stove, now accompany their owners on brisk walks around the block. The family parrot learns to say, "Hershey's, please," and is soon banned from the kitchen for excessive volume. Meanwhile, Hershey's remains politely silent. The company offers no official explanation for the nationwide surge in productivity and spontaneous jazz hands. "It's just good chocolate," says the latest ad, accompanied by a picture of a smiling family and, for some reason, a bicycle race. But for the average American, there's no mystery. Chocolate isn't just dessert. It's the fuel of a new, more animated age. You finish your bar, straighten the pictures on the wall, and consider repainting the living room while you're at it. If there's a downside to all this energy, you haven't found it. Yet. So you unwrap another bar, just to be sure. The only thing sweeter than chocolate, it turns out, is the buzz that comes with it. But not everyone's thrilled. Reformers, preachers, and concerned mothers begin to question whether candy should double as a controlled substance. The great chocolate debate begins. It's 1912, and America is deep in the grip of the temperance movement. Everywhere you turn, there are banners demanding virtue, marches for clean living, and church socials with more lemonade than any one person can safely consume. Alcohol is public enemy number one. But the hunt for vice doesn't stop at saloons and whiskey bottles. No, the searchlights of moral outrage soon land on another, sweeter culprit. The humble chocolate bar. You might not think a Hershey's bar has anything in common with bathtub gin, but try telling that to the local reformers, with rumors swirling about invigorating extracts and the unexplainable pep sweeping the nation. Some see chocolate as just another wolf in sheep's clothing. Is it true that Mrs. Hargrove's twins recited the entire Gettysburg Address backwards after sharing a bar? Is your neighbor's new fondness for yard work actually a symptom of cocoa intoxication? The questions multiply faster than rabbits at a carrot convention. Concerned parents, who once handed out chocolate for good grades, start to eye those shiny wrappers with suspicion. PTA meetings take a turn for the theatrical. One mother stands up and asks, voice trembling, "Are we raising a generation of sweet-toothed daredevils?" A preacher in a starched collar delivers a fiery sermon about the perils of confectionery stimulation, warning that unchecked chocolate consumption leads directly to dancing, unruly behavior, and, in one memorable case, spontaneous poetry recitals. The newspapers seize the moment. Sensational headlines declare, "Children in peril. The dark side of chocolate." One article claims that candy bars are the real cause behind late-night mischief and skipped piano practice. It starts with a Hershey's, cautions an editorial, but where does it end? No one is sure. But the undertone is clear. Your child's next snack might be the start of a lifelong habit. The public reads, gasps, and then, somewhat sheepishly, buys more chocolate just in case it's banned. Politicians soon get involved, eager to ride the cocoa wave to relevance. A local councilman proposes a ban on chocolate sales to anyone under 16. Another wants mandatory warning labels. May cause excessive cheerfulness. Debates erupt in town halls, some of which become unintentionally lively when the refreshments include chocolate cake. "It's a matter of public safety," shouts one official. his lips stained suspiciously brown. We must protect our children. And our teeth. Amid the panic, some defenders rise to chocolate's cause. Candy makers publish soothing pamphlets full of science words, assuring the public that Hershey's bars are as wholesome as a summer breeze and absolutely not habit-forming. Physicians weigh in, with carefully worded letters suggesting that, when consumed in moderation, chocolate poses no more danger than excessive knitting. In response, the moral crusaders switch tactics, calling for stricter school rules and increased parental vigilance. Lunchboxes are searched, candy is confiscated. The black market in schoolyard chocolate trading thrives. Through it all, everyday people are caught in the crossfire. One week, you're congratulated for buying a treat. The next, you're eyed with suspicion at the corner store. Family gatherings descend into debates about the cocoa menace. Even grandma is forced to defend her secret stash of baking chocolate, waving a wooden spoon and daring anyone to try and take it. Yet, despite the uproar, chocolate endures. Its fans are too devoted, its pleasures too sweet to stamp out. The panic will fade, but the memory of a country briefly terrified by candy will linger, proof that even in the battle for the nation's soul, sometimes all you really want is a bite of something good. And maybe, after the meeting, just one more square, strictly for research, of course. Headlines scream about the calfless, dangers of stimulating snacks. Hershey's bars become the center of a storm that includes angry letters, awkward congressional hearings, and some truly unfortunate advertising slogans. The year is 1913, and America is in the middle of one of its favorite pastimes, a moral panic with a side of righteous indignation. Newspapers, always hungry for the next big story, have set their sights on the chocolate bar. What began as a few whispers in temperance meetings has snowballed into front-page exposés, editorials, and scandalous cartoons featuring Hershey's bars dressed like villains in top hats and monocles. You can't open a paper without being confronted by a new revelation. Children gone wild on cocoa. Afternoon tea descends into chocolate to blame. One columnist describes how an entire church choir finished rehearsal in under 7 minutes and suspects the treats at fellowship hour. Angry letters pour in, from citizens terrified of cocoa-driven unrest to those defending their right to enjoy a square or three with their afternoon coffee. The letters page becomes a battleground of clashing philosophies and questionable penmanship. It's not just the written word either. Political cartoons lampoon both sides. One day it's a chocolate bar leading children astray. The next, a mustachioed reformer chasing a Hershey's mascot through the streets with a broom. Satire becomes a national sport, and everyone's invited to play. Chocolatiers attempt to laugh it off, but their PR teams are sweating through their starched collars. Then, inevitably, the government steps in. Congress, having solved all other national problems, for now, decides to hold hearings on the social effects of stimulating confections. You watch in amazement as respectable men argue, with straight faces, about the proper age for chocolate consumption. A well-meaning senator waves a half-melted Hershey's bar and warns, if we don't act, soon our nation's youth will be climbing the walls, literally. The hearings are, by any measure, a spectacle. Experts testify about cocoa, caffeine, and the mysterious invigorating effect of certain snacks. Some claim chocolate is as harmless as milk. Others suggest it's a slippery slope to jazz music and public dancing. The press eats it up, filling columns with dramatic quotes and blurry photos of witnesses caught mid-gesture. One day, a respected dentist claims that Hershey's bars are the root of all cavities and most questionable decisions. The next, a retired general solemnly attributes his battlefield courage to a steady supply of rationed chocolate. Candy makers scramble to defend themselves. Hershey's, hoping to soothe public anxiety, rolls out new advertising slogans: sweetness without mischief, and enjoy responsibly, one square at a time. Some slogans don't land so well. Not just for children, for nervous grandmas too. Only the competition is delighted. Rival brands run sly ads. For pep, choose ours. For panic, choose theirs. Meanwhile, everyday life is increasingly bizarre. Shopkeepers report people buying chocolate in disguise, worried about being seen by their neighbors. School children invent coded signals for black market candy trades. Even the family dog gets in on the action, barking twice for a treat and once for danger. Mum's coming. Through it all, chocolate sales mysteriously hold steady. For every scandalized editorial, there are 10 new fans sneaking bars in coat pockets and sock drawers. It's as if the country can't decide whether to ban chocolate or declare it the unofficial national food. And so, the Hershey's bar remains a spotlight, loved, feared, debated, and nibbled furtively during Senate recess. You take a bite and realize that, in a world this ridiculous, a little chocolate scandal is exactly what's needed. History's verdict? Deliciously undecided. Hershey's executives, masters of the non-answer. Does the chocolate contain coca? Leaf? Maybe. Is it dangerous? Of course not. Have you tried our new marshmallow bar? It's 1914, and as the great chocolate debate rages in newspapers and congressional halls, the folks at Hershey headquarters are sweating, not from guilt, but from the heat of so many flashbulbs and the pointed questions of reporters who suddenly care very much about what's in a candy bar. The public wants answers, the government wants regulation, and Hershey's wants everyone to calm down and eat some fudge. You can picture the boardroom. A polished oak table, neat rows of chairs, and nervous men in crisp collars. Outside, a phalanx of journalists wave their notebooks, firing questions faster than a conveyor belt in overdrive. The company's spokesmen are ready, or at least, they have practiced their "who, me" faces in the mirror. The questions start simple. Is it true your bars contain coca leaf extract? What exactly is invigorating about your product? Are you secretly fueling a nation of jazz musicians? Hershey's answers with the grace of a champion tap dancer. Our bars are made with the finest ingredients. We pride ourselves on quality. Hershey's is committed to the well-being of our customers. A masterclass in saying a lot, while saying absolutely nothing. Reporters dig deeper, hunting for a confession. They want to know the precise formula, the origin of every ingredient, and whether those rumors about a mystery powder are true. The company's PR men flash winning smiles and steer the conversation elsewhere. Have you tried our new marshmallow swirl? May we interest you in a sample? If all else fails, they produce a chart showing how chocolate bars bring happiness to orphans, kittens, and patriotic housewives. It's not that Hershey's is hiding anything. Well, not technically. Recipes in the early 1900s are closely guarded secrets, passed from chocolatier to chocolatier like family heirlooms. Competitors are always snooping. Rival brands have been known to hire undercover tasters to analyze every bar for clues, sometimes going so far as to sneak into factories disguised as milk delivery boys. Hershey's response is to lock their formulas in vaults and train their employees to answer all recipe questions with, "Sorry, that's above my pay grade." Meanwhile, the rumors only grow. Some say the Hershey's family keeps a private supply of special bars in a gold-lined safe. Others swear a hidden tunnel beneath the factory leads to a room labeled "Secret Ingredients. Authorized personnel only." The more Hershey's dodges, the more creative the stories become. Children imagine chocolate chemists with bubbling beakers and mysterious powders, all working through the night by candlelight. In truth, The real secret is less glamorous and more practical. A little bit of coca leaf extract, just as was common in all sorts of products back then. Not enough to cause a scandal, just enough to make people wonder if they've discovered the world's most pleasant loophole. But Hershey's won't admit it, and why should they? Confession is bad for business, and besides, by the time the story makes the rounds, the formula is already quietly changing. All the while, the chocolate keeps selling. Customers, secretly delighted by the controversy, buy even more bars for research purposes. Chocolate wrappers become collector's items. Meanwhile, Hershey's doubles down on wholesome ads, with smiling families and none too subtle taglines. Hershey's, the treat you can trust. The company weathers the storm, answering questions with a wink, a sample, and a stubborn refusal to explain too much. It's a classic corporate move. When in doubt, pivot, distract, and hand out another marshmallow bar. Because in the end, if history teaches us anything, it's that people love a mystery almost as much as they love chocolate, especially when it's wrapped in silver foil and plausible deniability. So next time you savor a Hershey's, enjoy the taste of a little secrecy, a little history, and a whole lot of PR finesse. Quality control in 1912 was a roll of the dice. Sometimes you got a Hershey's bar. Sometimes you got a Hershey's adventure. No one was bored. Let's step back into the clattering, bustling world of early 20th century chocolate making, where science met luck and hairnets were strictly theoretical. You're an employee at the Hershey's factory, a place where every shift promises mystery, mild chaos, and, occasionally, a product you're genuinely proud to send out the door. But mostly, it's chocolate roulette. Picture the scene. Vats of molten cocoa bubble and burble. Sugar is measured by the scoop, not the scale, and every so often, the guy in charge of the milk gets distracted by a particularly interesting pigeon on the window ledge. Bar molds clatter down a line of wooden planks, guided more by gravity than precision engineering. Sometimes the bars come out perfect. Sometimes they're shaped like interpretive modern art. Supervisors stalk the factory floor with clipboards and sharp eyes. Their job? Catch mistakes before the mistakes catch up with them. Their technique? Sampling. A lot of sampling. The result? Every third bar is technically quality tested, which means the line workers are some of the best fed people in Pennsylvania. If the chocolate tastes a little funny, well, maybe it's just a new recipe. Maybe it's Tuesday. There's a certain wild camaraderie in the air. Someone might sneak an extra handful of cocoa nibs into a batch for luck. Someone else gets creative with the wrappers, switching Hershey's with Hershey's for one glorious limited edition hour. On a particularly exciting day, an entire batch goes out with the wrong label, now with real chocolate, as if previous bars had been figments of the imagination. Machinery is always breaking down. A conveyor belt gets stuck and launches bars across the room, like brown, sugary missiles. There's a brief food fight, technically an emergency product recall, that ends with everyone laughing and a stern warning from the floor manager to stop weaponizing the inventory. Bob from maintenance swears he can fix any machine with nothing but twine, chewing gum, and a positive attitude. Sometimes he's right. Not everything is fun and games. Occasionally, a batch comes out so wrong, it's quietly disposed of behind the factory, where the local squirrels feast for days and reportedly reach record speeds. The foreman insists every bar must look exactly the same, but reality has other ideas. Some bars are fat, some are thin. A few look like they survived a minor earthquake. That's rustic charm, someone says. Limited edition. The Wild West spirit extends to the workers, too. It's not unusual for the night shift to invent new assembly line games. Who can wrap the most bars in an hour? Who can stack the boxes the highest? Who can juggle finished products without dropping one into the suggestion box again? The winner gets a bonus bar and bragging rights until the next round. Despite it all, the chocolate keeps coming, and so do the customers. There's something comforting about the unpredictability. Every Hershey's bar is a tiny gamble, a little adventure wrapped in foil. Maybe this one's a bit crooked. Maybe it's perfect. Maybe there's an extra corner or two. No matter what, it's sweet. And it's yours. So next time you open a chocolate bar and notice it's not quite symmetrical, just remember, you're not eating a mistake. You're sampling a piece of history, a relic of a time when quality control meant, let's see what happens. And honestly, wasn't life just a little bit more exciting that way? The government steps in, asking awkward questions about what exactly is in America's snacks. Suddenly, ingredient lists get a lot less exciting, and so do most afternoon tea parties. It's 1906, and the country is in the midst of a great reckoning. People are reading The Jungle, feeling queasy about sausages, and starting to ask what, precisely, they're putting in their bodies. Enter the Pure Food and Drug Act, a piece of legislation designed to make sure your lunch is less of a gamble and your dessert isn't doubling as a chemistry experiment. You, a loyal fan of all things sweet, are suddenly confronted with new reality. Gone are the days of secret formulas and mysterious extracts. Now, every Hershey's bar, soda bottle, and cough syrup must list exactly what's inside. It's a radical idea. Food, once cloaked in mystery and gentle lies, is now to be labeled, regulated, and occasionally explained to Congress. At the Hershey factory, panic sets in. Executives gather in smoky back rooms, poring over recipes and wondering which ingredients sound the most innocent. Maybe just say, natural flavors, someone suggests. What about botanical stimulants? Another offers, hopefully. The lawyers are called in, followed closely by the marketing department, who are suddenly less enthusiastic about the word invigorating. Chocolate bars are given a makeover, out with the whispers of coca leaf, and in with the bold new world of full disclosure. Hershey's begins to highlight their pure milk, finest cocoa, and absolutely nothing scandalous. Ingredient lists appear, featuring such reliable favorites as sugar, cocoa butter, and a noticeable absence of anything that might make your heart race unexpectedly. But the law isn't just about candy. Drugstore shelves, once lined with tonics promising everything from eternal youth to spiritual vigor, are now being scrubbed clean. Medicines are forced to admit what's actually in them. Spoiler, mostly alcohol and wishful thinking. Advertisers pivot. Safe and effective becomes the new slogan, replacing cures, boldness, indigestion, and probably existential dread. Some people are suspicious. If they have to tell us what's in it now, what were they hiding before? Whispers Mrs. Watkins at the tea table, eyeing her chocolate suspiciously before eating it anyway. Others mourn the end of the great age of mystery foods. There's a sense that something fun, if slightly dangerous, has been lost. Tea parties turn somber as guests debate whether citric acid sounds more or less threatening than extract of South American botanicals. Still, the law brings peace of mind to many. Parents feel safer handing out treats, confident that no one's getting a surprise lesson in pharmacology. School teachers hand out chocolate rewards without checking the ingredient list twice. Even the most dramatic headlines calm down, as the chocolate-fueled jazz outbreaks are replaced by stories about new packaging. Hershey's survives the transition, barely breaking a sweat. The bars keep selling. In fact, with the reassurance of pure food laws, even more people indulge, certain they're eating something wholesome, competitors grumble, but secretly copy Hershey's every move, swapping out miracle ingredients for milk and sugar. So the next time you pick up a chocolate bar and scan the ingredients for peace of mind, remember, there was a time when pure was just a rumor, and disclosure meant never admitting to anything. Thanks to the Pure Food and Drug Act, your sweet tooth is a little safer, your snacks are a little less thrilling, and the wild west of chocolate is mostly tamed by the 1920s. Cocaine is out, and plain old sugar is in. Hershey's quietly removes the special ingredient, hoping nobody notices or remembers the time they invented the world's most energizing bedtime snack. Picture it. The roaring 20s. Jazz is blaring, skirts are rising, and America is learning to dance the Charleston in shoes that weren't designed for that sort of thing. But in the back rooms of America's favorite chocolate factories, the mood is decidedly less peppy. Hershey's, along with other makers of invigorating snacks, is facing new scrutiny. The fun little secret, those coca leaf extracts and their barely legal afterglow, has suddenly become the most embarrassing guest at the dessert table. You're a loyal customer, blissfully unaware. You bite into a Hershey's bar and notice, well, not much. That's the point. The spark is a little less sparkly. The buzz has mellowed into a mild sugar rush. Your after-dinner walk is a bit slower, and the urge to alphabetize your sock drawer at midnight has mysteriously faded. Maybe it's the new dance craze wearing you out. Maybe you're just getting older. Or maybe, just maybe, something has changed in your chocolate. Behind the scenes, it's all very hush-hush. There are no press conferences, no bold statements. Hershey's doesn't want a scandal, but the government and public opinion have made it clear. Stimulating snacks are out, and transparency is in. Quietly, cautiously, recipes are rewritten. Ingredient lists lose their botanical flair. Instead of a wink and a nod, you get pure chocolate goodness. Even the ads tone down, promising simple pleasure, wholesome sweetness, and no jazz hands required. Factory workers notice the shift, too. Gone are the days of double-speed conveyor belts and spontaneous lunchtime foxtrots. The atmosphere is calmer, the mishaps fewer, and the annual company picnic features fewer three-legged races run at breakneck speed. Supervisors still watch for quality control, but now, the wildest thing that happens is a misplaced wrapper, not a caffeine-fueled conga line through the shipping department. Out in the wild, candy lovers adapt. Some grumble that Hershey's just isn't what it used to be, as if their nostalgia has been tampered with, along with the recipe. Children still sneak chocolate bars into school, but teachers no longer complain about classes resembling circus training sessions. Moms appreciate bedtime returning to a reasonable hour, and even the local piano teacher admits the new chocolate pairs better with calm scales. But not everyone is happy about the change. There are rumors, always rumors. Neighborhood gossips whisper about the good old bars and the secret stash Grandpa keeps locked in his attic. Some claim you can still find a real, honest-to-goodness buzz if you know the right person at the corner store. Others insist the whole thing was overblown. Chocolate is chocolate. You kids just don't remember how much energy you had before radio programs took over your brain. Still, the world moves on. Hershey's keeps thriving, now selling bars by the millions to a public more interested in sweetness than in spontaneous living room marathons. The great energizing era of chocolate comes to a gentle, yawning close. No fanfare, no tears, just the soft rustle of foil and the content sigh of a country settling in for a good night's sleep. So next time you bite into a Hershey's bar and feel just a little underwhelmed, remember, there was a time when chocolate came with a kick. And sometimes, a story you couldn't quite explain. The phase-out may have dulled the buzz, but the legend lives on, one square at a time. As more people learn what they've been eating, there's a wave of indignation, confusion, and nostalgia. Did Grandma's cookies really have a little something extra? It's the late 1920s, and America is suddenly waking up from a decade-long sugar rush. Word is out. Those invigorating snacks and lively chocolate bars might have contained ingredients the average citizen couldn't even pronounce, let alone spell. At first, the reaction is disbelief. You, and everyone you know, have been eating Hershey's bars for years. Could it be true that what you thought was just a treat was, in fact, responsible for a nation's ability to paint their entire house in a single weekend? The press, never one to miss an opportunity for moral panic, runs headlines. Did your favorite snack have a secret? Nation shaken by. Candy conspiracy. Suddenly, everyone has an opinion. In beauty parlors and barbershops, the talk is less about the latest hairstyles and more about whether Aunt Marjorie's legendary fudge owes its reputation to cocoa or to her special sauce at the pharmacy. The school board debates banning chocolate from lunchboxes, and one particularly dramatic PTA meeting ends with the phrase, "Won't someone think of the children?" Politicians join the chorus, thundering from pulpits and podiums that the public has been deceived. "We trusted our snacks," cries one senator. "We must never be lulled into a state of unexamined deliciousness again." Committees are formed, investigations are launched, and the word transparency is uttered more times than anyone can count. For a while, it feels like the Hershey bar itself is on trial, but as the initial wave of shock passes, confusion sets in. What, exactly, was so bad about the old bars? Was it really dangerous? Weren't people happier, more productive, maybe even a little more interesting at parties? There's a new sense of nostalgia for the wild days of invigorating snacks. Stories circulate. Great. Uncle Henry once recited the Gettysburg Address backwards after a single s'more. Grandma's bridge club used to play for 12 hours straight on nothing but cocoa and biscuits. "You don't see energy like that anymore," says the local grocer, restocking plain old milk chocolate with a wistful sigh. Candy companies scramble to reassure the public. Ad campaigns trumpet pure, wholesome ingredients, with posters of smiling children and mothers who definitely have never stormed a city hall over confectionery. Packaging grows more straightforward, if a little less fun. The wild claims of the past, energizes mind and body, are replaced by the much duller, now with extra creaminess. Hershey's leans hard into nostalgia, selling itself as the bar you can trust, even if your parents once used it as a midnight energy shot. Still, the rumors persist. Some people insist they can tell the difference between a pre-1920s bar and a modern one, though blindfolded taste tests prove otherwise. Others hoard vintage wrappers, trading them at swap meets like rare coins. There's always a friend of a friend who claims to have a real old bar hidden in a trunk somewhere, just in case. Gradually, the uproar settles. Americans return to their new, gentler chocolate, perhaps a little less peppy, but still sweet. Children now drift peacefully to sleep after dessert, and nobody's running relay races at midnight. Yet, in quiet moments, you still hear the old stories. The era of invigorating snacks may have ended, but its legend lingers. An edible mystery, wrapped in foil, tucked away in family lore. So the next time you bite into a Hershey's bar, remember, history is full of surprises. Sometimes, the wildest ingredient is a good story, and a hint of mischief, long after the buzz has faded. Hershey's recipe is now the same as what you find in checkout aisles everywhere. Sweet, mild, and tragically incapable of causing spontaneous dance marathons. It's the 1930s, and the Hershey's bar has undergone a quiet transformation. You, standing in line at the general store, notice something different. The wrapper is brighter, the promises are tamer, and nobody seems worried about secret stimulants anymore. The only thing you're likely to feel after eating a modern Hershey's bar is a gentle sense of contentment. And maybe, if you overdo it, a faint regret that has more to do with your waistband than your brain chemistry. This is chocolate's age of innocence. Ingredient lists are short and straightforward. Milk, cocoa, sugar, a bit of vanilla, and nothing to keep you up past bedtime unless you have very strong feelings about lactose. Hershey's bars are now pure, wholesome, and trusted by mothers everywhere, and not in the way that used to keep mothers up at night. The company's places off, advertisements are filled with pictures of cherubic children, beaming housewives, and the kind of family togetherness that seems suspiciously well lit. No longer the subject of congressional hearings or Sunday sermons, Hershey's is now the official snack of lunchboxes, picnics, and eventually trick-or-treat bags. The bar's reputation is spotless. You eat one square and feel fine, maybe even a little nostalgic for a time when chocolate could shake up your afternoon and have you repainting the porch by sunset. But in this new era, the most exciting thing about a Hershey's bar is the rare event when it melts in your pocket before you get home. In schools, teachers hand out chocolate bars as prizes, confident that nobody will leap over a desk or recite Shakespeare at double speed. Children swap them at recess, dreaming of the day when they might save up enough wrappers for a toy, a baseball glove, or, in truly ambitious circles, a trip to the movies. The PTA's main concern now is sugar intake, and occasionally, sticky fingerprints on library books. Meanwhile, in the world of advertising, the wild claims are gone. Gone are the promises of vitality, pep, and the secret to staying cheerful through tax season. Instead, Hershey's boasts simple pleasure, delight in every bite, and, above all, nothing you need to worry about. Even the mascots have calmed down. No more sprinting squirrels or somersaulting cocoa beans. Just happy kids and a smiling Mr. Hershey. For adults, the Hershey's bar becomes a nostalgic treat, a little taste of youth, now that youth no longer comes with a racing pulse and the urge to invent interpretive dance. You buy a bar at the grocery store and remember the days when Grandma claimed chocolate made her a better card player and Uncle Mort insisted it was why he always beat the traffic. Now, you unwrap square at your desk and, if you're lucky, forget about your emails for 2 minutes. Of course, there are those who sigh for the old days. Chocolate isn't what it used to be, says every generation since chocolate was invented. But there's comfort in the new normal. Your bedtime snack won't keep you up all night. Your kids will go to sleep eventually. The wild, invigorating chocolate of the past is now a memory, a sweet, safe, slightly vanilla legacy. So next time you pick up a Hershey's bar, take a moment to appreciate the mildness, peace, and the joy of dessert without drama. The modern bar may not make you dance, but sometimes, just chocolate is exactly what you need. Urban legends flourish. Did the old Hershey's bars really make you fly? Did they turn ordinary accountants into jazz musicians? The stories only get wilder with time. You're at a family reunion, perched on a folding chair with a plate of potato salad, listening to Uncle Leo regale the younger cousins. Back in my day, he says, a single Hershey's bar could keep you awake for 3 straight days and have you repainting the barn by moonlight. Someone asks if that's really true, and Leo leans in, voice low and conspiratorial. You kids don't know how wild chocolate used to be. I once saw a man eat 2 bars and compose a whole symphony on a xylophone he built from fence posts. The kids gasp, and the stories only get better as the evening goes on. Great Aunt Mabel claims her famous lemon bars owed their fluffiness to a secret ingredient, a Hershey's square for luck, and maybe a sprinkle of energy nobody could explain. One cousin swears Grandpa Joe won a pie-eating contest entirely because of a pre-1915 chocolate bar. Another whispers that there's a stash of the old stuff hidden somewhere in the attic, guarded by a family of suspiciously energetic squirrels. Legends grow in the telling. Did Hershey's bars once help the local baseball team win 3 championships in a row? Was there a baker in Philadelphia who invented the cupcake after an all-night cocoa binge? Some say a whole generation of schoolchildren aced their spelling bees and outran the trolley home thanks to magic chocolate. There are even rumors of a mysterious midnight batch, extra potent, wrapped in foil, never sold in stores, but always present at the wildest barn dances. It's not just your family, either. All over America, people swap tales of supercharged snacks and improbable achievements. Community newsletters publish recollections of the days when a bar of chocolate was the original energy drink. Magazine writers, desperate for a good story, interview witnesses who recall seeing their fathers build a chicken coop and invent the wheelbarrow, all before breakfast and all thanks to Hershey's. Historians try to separate fact from fiction, but the lines blur. Medical journals from the era reference remarkable vivacity in test subjects, which may or may not have had anything to do with the chocolate. Old advertisements resurface with illustrations of people leaping over fences, playing 6 instruments at once, or finishing the Sunday crossword in under 5 minutes. The farther away from the actual invigorating era you get, the more epic the feats become. Meanwhile, Hershey's says nothing. The official story is as mild as their modern recipe. Chocolate is chocolate, and any stories of supernatural pep are just nostalgia. Sweet, harmless, and maybe a little bit true, but those who lived through the wild years share a knowing wink. You had to be there, they say, as if everyone who bit into a bar before 1920 was initiated into a secret society, forever immune to ordinary fatigue. The legends endure because people want them to. There's something comforting about a world where a candy bar could turn the ordinary into the extraordinary, where the right snack could fuel a barn raising, a barn dance, or at least a story worth retelling. Every family has their version, every town its hero, every attic its rumor of a missing magic bar. So, next time you hear a wild tale about chocolate-fueled heroics, just smile and pass the candy bowl. After all, some myths are sweeter when you keep them alive. Modern science takes a closer look. Was it dangerous? Probably. Was it fun? Absolutely. Would anyone survive snack time at a 1909 kindergarten? Not a chance. Imagine you're a researcher in a crisp lab coat, combing through ancient candy wrappers and yellowing ingredient lists. Your colleagues spent years reconstructing the original Hershey's recipe like it's the Rosetta Stone. Test tubes clink, graphs are drawn. Nobody's quite sure if this is nutritional science or archaeology, but the mission is serious. Just how invigorating was the old chocolate bar? The results are, well, enlightening. It turns out those early Hershey's bars didn't just include cocoa and sugar. They really did contain coca leaf extract. Yes, the same plant that gave the world a famously peppy beverage and a handful of questionable medical tonics. The doses were tiny by modern standards, but enough for a noticeable boost. It was like your average chocolate bar had a little secret handshake with your nervous system. Modern scientists, with their computers and institutional review boards, cluck their tongues. This would never be allowed today, says Dr. Eliza from the university's Department of Regretful Snack Analysis. But it's a fascinating window into the wilder days of food science. Experiments are run on lab mice, who it turns out can run surprisingly complex mazes after a vintage Hershey's bar. Focus groups of adults are given historically accurate recreation bars. The result? A lot of rapid note-taking, restless feet, and one spontaneous interpretive dance in the conference room. The question remains, was it addictive? Technically, anything with enough sugar and a side order of mild stimulant has a pretty good shot. People back then craved their chocolate, sometimes going to great lengths to secure a bar or two. Children traded away, prized marbles and comic books for a single square. Adults hid stashes in flour tins, desk drawers, and, in desperate times, the laundry basket. Teachers suspected that show and tell was mostly just a way to swap wrappers without parental oversight. But was it really dangerous? Here, history is murky. For all the talk of invigorating snacks, there are very few credible reports of chocolate-related chaos. Most people enjoyed a pleasant buzz, maybe worked a little harder, or ran a little faster. Sure, there were a few complaints about jittery nerves and children who bounced like pinballs after recess, but as vices go, it was mild. Medical journals from the era described nervous agitation and sudden outbursts of productivity, but nothing you wouldn't get from 3 cups of coffee and an overdue deadline. In the end, scientists admit the truth. Old chocolate bars were probably a little addictive, a little wild, and a lot of fun. Was it responsible? No. Was it survivable? Clearly, everyone's great-grandparents lived to tell the tale, or at least to wildly exaggerate it at family dinners. Was it tastier? That's up for debate. But there's no denying that, for a few decades, America was powered by a treat that packed a very small, very lively punch. So, as you open your modern, regulation-approved bar, be grateful. Your snack won't give you a case of the jitters or send you running laps around your living room. But spare a thought for the scientists, the historians, and the mice who proved, once and for all, that a little excitement is sometimes the best ingredient in the bowl. There's a part of everyone that misses the days when chocolate could make you believe in yourself, or at least make you believe you could run to Cleveland and back before lunch. It's the present day, and you're standing in the candy aisle, facing row after row of chocolate bars that look suspiciously normal. They're uniform, reliable, and utterly incapable of jump-starting a community, barn-raising. The wrappers promise smoothness, creaminess, and moments of joy, but none claim to fuel late-night inventors or launch spontaneous square dances in the street. You check the ingredients. No mystery botanicals, no secret extracts, just cocoa, sugar, and nostalgia. You can't help but feel a pang the era you never experienced. A time when snacks came with a dash of excitement, a hint of danger, and possibly a court summons. It's not that you actually want to jitter your way through bedtime or accidentally join a marathon. It's the thrill, the legend, the possibility that anything could happen after dessert. There's something endearing about a world where children could sprint for hours and grandmothers could suddenly recite Latin, all thanks to a single square of invigorating chocolate. Family gatherings aren't quite the same, either. Once, relatives swapped stories of chocolate-fueled mischief, cousins building elaborate forts at midnight, uncles retiling the porch just for fun, or mothers managing 5 screaming children and still baking a pie from scratch. Now, the wildest tales revolve around trying a new recipe from the internet, or finally figuring out how to program the coffee machine. Nobody's blaming the chocolate anymore. Instead, they just admit to being tired. There's nostalgia, too, in the packaging itself. Collectors pay small fortunes for the old wrappers, the ones with slogans like energizes mind and body, or keeps you going. You find yourself scrolling through online auctions, wondering if a slightly crumpled label could bring back the thrill of the Wild West of candy. You imagine tearing open an original bar and instantly feeling the urge to organize your entire attic. Even advertisers seem to miss the chaos. Today's chocolate commercials are full of soft lighting, acoustic guitars, and promises of mindful moments. Compare that to the roaring 20s, when a single ad could launch a citywide scavenger hunt, and every new chocolate recipe was considered a potential leap forward for civilization. It's all a little too calm these days. No jittery piano solos, no debates about proper chocolate etiquette, no rumors of secret family recipes smuggled across state lines. Yet, you remind yourself, not all nostalgia is productive. The chocolate of the past was exciting, yes, but it was also a little unpredictable. There's something to be said for the peace of mind that comes from knowing your snack won't accidentally spark a revolution, reorganize your schedule, or get you in trouble with the neighborhood watch. Modern chocolate is safer, sweeter, and exactly as energetic as you want it to be. No more, no less. So you pick up your trusty, regulation-approved Hershey's bar, take a thoughtful bite, and savor the taste of quiet progress. Maybe, just for a second, you wish it had a little more pep. Maybe you even daydream about building a barn, outrunning a trolley, or reciting poetry at top speed. But as you settle back, satisfied, you realize that sometimes nostalgia is best enjoyed in small, harmless doses, one safe, sweet square at a time. Close your eyes and imagine, what if Hershey's had never removed the coca? A world where PTA meetings end in interpretive dance, and nobody, anywhere, ever sleeps again. It's an alternate 2024. The world hums, not with contentment, but with energy. Chocolate bars are still packed with their secret spark. And the consequences are, well, let's just say there's a reason historians call this the age of unscheduled activity. You, once a normal person with a mild sweet tooth, now plan your entire day around your next Hershey's bar. Breakfast? Chocolate. Commute? Chocolate. Coffee break? Just kidding, more chocolate. Everywhere you go, people are in motion. The morning jog is now a morning sprint. Dogs walk their owners. Neighborhoods resound with the sound of children inventing new sports at speeds that defy Newtonian physics. Teachers, eyes wide and hopeful, assign silent reading while surreptitiously barricading the classroom snack cabinet. At business meetings, colleagues bounce in their chairs, taking notes so fast the paper smokes. Imagine the workplace. Email response times drop from hours to milliseconds. Office chairs are fitted with seatbelts. Employees file 5 expense reports before lunch, accidentally solve cold fusion, and then forget what they were doing. HR introduces a new benefit, weekly chocolate detox hours, where staff must place their bars in a lockbox and stare meditatively at beige wallpaper until the trembling stops. Even sports are unrecognizable. The Olympics abandon marathons, declaring, "Everyone finishes under 5 minutes anyway." New records are set in every event, though medal ceremonies often descend into enthusiastic, if chaotic, group poker. Chess matches last 10 seconds, with both players and referees unable to sit still. NASCAR bans chocolate-fueled drivers after a test race ends with every car simultaneously lapping itself. The family home is a lively place. Parents perform bedtime stories at 78 RPM. Children brush their teeth so fast the bristles catch fire. And dinner is often served 3 times before dusk because everyone keeps getting hungry again. Grandparents reminisce about the old slow days when a piece of fudge meant an afternoon nap, not an all-night mural painting session on the garage. Of course, society adapts. City councils issue noise-cancelling earplugs to every resident. Meditation studios spring up, promising a taste of yesterday's tranquility. New smartphone apps measure not steps, but chocolate surges per hour. Delivery companies switch to drones. Human couriers just can't keep up anymore. Even politics gets weird. Debates turn into full-on sprints, with candidates racing down the aisles as they pitch campaign promises at double speed. Legislation passes in record time, mostly because nobody has the patience to filibuster. National productivity surges, but so do sales of fidget spinners, rubber flooring, and fireproof pajamas. But perhaps the biggest change? Sleep becomes optional. Mattress companies pivot to offer decorative beds, now mostly used as trampolines. Insomniacs find themselves with too much company. At 3 a.m., every block is lit up, neighbors swapping stories and repainting picket fences just for fun. Scientists abandon sleep studies and take up competitive Scrabble instead. So, as you savor your real world, regulation-safe Hershey's bar, breathe a sigh of relief. The wild what-if never came to pass. The world is calm, your chocolate is safe, and nobody is expected to juggle 3 hobbies, 4 jobs, and a spontaneous poker at midnight. Sometimes, progress means knowing when to slow down, or at least when to quietly phase out the world's most energizing ingredient before it phases you out instead. It's not just Hershey's stirring the pot. Other candy makers catch on, and suddenly it's an arms race for who can cram the most excitement into a chocolate bar. Pep bars, stimulant sticks, and wakeful wafers hit the shelves, promising enough energy to clean your house, invent the television, and possibly question the meaning of life, all before supper. You live in a town where the candy aisle now resembles a pharmaceutical trade show. At the end of every checkout lane, there's a fresh display. New brands, new slogans, all with wrappers so loud they practically vibrate in your hand. The local pharmacist, once a dignified man with a mustache as thick as his sense of caution, now stocks 3 kinds of enthused chews, and has stopped asking why customers are sprinting out of his store. Candy companies become laboratories of chaos. Secret research teams gather after hours, mixing cocoa, sugar, cola nut, guarana, and any other plant rumored to make a heartbeat faster. Recipe testers quit in droves. No one can handle the tremors. The janitor, after eating a test bar, scrubs the entire factory in one night and alphabetizes the brooms for good measure. Executives demand more pep, more zing, more marketable intensity. Advertising men invent new words, choc-tacular, buzzificent, and print them on wrappers alongside promises that seem legally dubious. Competition grows fierce. There's a rumor that one rival company is sending spies dressed as schoolchildren to infiltrate the Hershey's factory. Another firm unveils the Thunderbolt Brick, a candy so potent it comes with its own warning label and a coupon for a free bottle of milk. Double Dynamo bars sell out within days. But half the town claims they haven't slept since Tuesday. The mayor bans Hyper Chews from city meetings after a minor incident involving the spontaneous repainting of the council chamber in a single lunch break. Consumers, naturally, are swept up in the madness. Families host taste tests, and the neighbor's 7-year-old ends up bouncing off the garden fence until nightfall. Sporting events now have candy sponsors, with the Super Sprint bar advertised as the snack that makes you win. No one can confirm the claims, but no one is willing to risk losing by eating a banana instead. Elementary school foot races become less about speed and more about how many Vim chunks you can eat before the whistle blows. Of course, there are casualties. Local doctors see a spike in pep-related mishaps. The hardware store runs out of nails after everyone in town decides to build a gazebo. The barber refuses to cut hair for anyone who's eaten a Choco Jolt that day. He says it's for public safety. Grandparents beg for the old days, when a chocolate bar meant a smile, not a citywide frenzy. Through it all, Hershey's remains cool and slightly mysterious. Their bars never promise to grant superpowers or turn you into a philosopher king. Instead, the company leans into nostalgia, the original pick-me-up, they say, as if all the chaos around them is just another fad. And maybe it is. By the end of the decade, the great candy arms race fizzles out. The wildest brands disappear. The shelves calm down, and the world returns to normal, save for a few lingering garden fences and the occasional alphabetized broom closet. But for a while, candy was king, and the only thing faster than the sugar rush was the pace of change. Picture it, a mahogany-paneled parlor, feathered hats, and the genteel clink of dessert forks. But underneath all that decorum, the guests are flying. The socialites of 1907 don't just sip tea. They throw cocoa parties, discreetly passing around the good stuff and debating poetry at 400 words per minute. You arrive at the home of Mrs. Abernathy, the kind of woman who greets her guests with 3 air kisses and a knowing wink. Her invitations are legendary, embossed in gold and promising an evening of conversation, refreshments, and chocolate indulgence. The parlor is ablaze with gaslight, crystal vases stuffed with lilies, and faint hints of nervous energy. You notice the butler carrying a tray of dainty, foil-wrapped bars. Not your average after-dinner mint. It starts innocently enough. The first round of cocoa is served in porcelain cups, dark and steaming. Conversation flows politely. Topics circling the weather, the new railway schedule, and that scandalous novel someone left in the lending library. Then, Mrs. Abernathy herself stands up and declares, "Shall we enjoy a taste of excitement?" Suddenly, the room buzzes with anticipation. A footman appears, bearing a silver platter loaded with Hershey's bars, rumored, in certain circles, to contain a little more spirit than advertised. Gloved hands reach out. Delicate bites are taken. You nibble your square and feel alive. The grand piano player starts up a lively tune. Within minutes, the atmosphere shifts. Voices grow brighter. Debates heat up, ranging from the virtues of Greek architecture to whether the moon landing, yet to happen, will require better hats. Someone proposes a contest to see who can quote the most Shakespeare in one breath. Mrs. Abernathy recites Hamlet's soliloquy, while simultaneously reupholstering a fainting couch. The cocoa party becomes a high society ritual. Socialites develop secret signals. A tap of the teaspoon, a folded napkin to indicate who brought the strongest bars. The local newspaper's society column begins to hint at these wild gatherings. Last night's affair at the Abernathy home was particularly animated. Mr. Chudley recited 12 sonnets before the soup course. Rival hostesses try to outdo each other, offering triple-strength cocoa bars or concocting their own invigorating recipes. One particularly ambitious party ends in a spontaneous, poker-fueled conga line through the rose garden. Of course, discretion is key. No one admits, in daylight, to the true source of their late-night epiphanies or inexplicably energetic poetry readings. The morning after, hats are straightened, pearls are clutched, and alibis are synchronized. It must have been the excitement of good company, guests say, ignoring the fact that 3 carpets now need to be restretched and someone painted a mural in the pantry at 2 a.m. Gossip, as always, spreads faster than the cocoa buzz itself. Newcomers to town hear rumors of these legendary gatherings and wonder how to get invited. The secret, they learn, is always enthusiasm and, perhaps, a well-timed box of Abernathy's select bars delivered to the hostess. Rumor has it the mayor's wife once wrote a new city ordinance in iambic pentameter after a particularly robust cocoa party. No one knows for sure, but the legend persists. In the end, cocoa parties are remembered not for their refinement, but for their wild, exuberant energy. a flurry of words, laughter, and late-night inspiration fueled by chocolate bars that were just a little bit more than dessert. So next time you feel a party dragging, just imagine one square could have you quoting Shakespeare and reupholstering a fainting couch before midnight. School in the early 1900s is a special kind of chaos. Teachers armed only with chalk and patience try to wrangle classrooms full of kids who just demolished their lunchbox chocolate. If you've ever wondered what 32 children on a mild stimulant looks like, imagine a one-room schoolhouse that doubles as an indoor stampede. You're Miss Perkins. Dedicated educator and possessor of nerves of steel, standing at the front of your classroom with a stack of arithmetic worksheets and a growing suspicion that today's lesson is about to go off the rails. The students are fidgeting more than usual. There's a suspicious rustling of wrappers coming from the coat closet. A few particularly enterprising souls are already trading squares of Hershey's under their desks like high-stakes gamblers. The morning lesson begins. For about 7 seconds, everything is normal. Then, as if signaled by an invisible conductor, the energy erupts. Tommy blurts out the answer to a question you haven't finished asking. Susie, inspired by her snack, attempts to recite all the US presidents in reverse order. Twice the speed, half the accuracy. Meanwhile, 3 students start an impromptu foot race around the pot-bellied stove. Walking feet, please. You call, but it's like trying to slow a herd of caffeinated goats. Recess, once a simple affair of hopscotch and marbles, becomes an unsupervised Olympic trial. Students race across the playground, leap over the swings, and invent a game called Human Pinwheel, which ends with everyone dizzy and 2 hats lost forever in the tall grass. You jot a note to yourself. Order more bandages, and maybe a fence. Back inside, the sugar rush shows no sign of fading. Penmanship becomes performance art. Letters loop and curl wildly. Spelling tests become spelling relays, and inkpots suffer tragic fates. Jimmy tries to write his name with both hands at once, producing a signature that will baffle genealogists for generations. Mary claims she's invented speed reading and devours 3 chapters of Robinson Crusoe in 5 minutes. She remembers none of it, but is declared class champion anyway. Lunch is equally unpredictable. You overhear wild debates. Does chocolate actually help with multiplication? Can 1 square make you jump higher? The class mathematician proposes a theory, supported by a complex chart involving snack consumption and academic achievement. It's peer-reviewed, critiqued, and, ultimately, abandoned for a group effort to construct a new kind of paper airplane that will fly all the way to Cleveland. By the afternoon, you've run out of strategies. Desks are slightly askew. The blackboard is covered in motivational slogans, and a few students have started chanting multiplication tables like it's a sporting event. The janitor peeks in, takes one look, and backs away slowly. Your only hope is a story-time cool-down. Miraculously, the prospect of listening to Tom Sawyer read aloud calms them, at least until someone realizes the chapter involves fence painting, and suddenly everyone volunteers for fieldwork. As the final bell rings and the stampede heads for home, you collapse into your chair, exhausted. You tell yourself that tomorrow you'll ban chocolate before noon, but deep down you know you'll forget, until the next sugar-fueled symphony breaks out. So next time you think your workday is out of control, remember Miss Perkins and her chocolate-fueled classroom. Some battles can't be won, only survived, with chalk dust, good humor, and the hope that the next generation learns as much as they run. Somewhere between medical optimism and wishful thinking, a few bold souls start the Hershey's bar diet. Early advertisements claim a little chocolate could boost your energy, banish hunger, and possibly turn you into a cross between Teddy Roosevelt and a racehorse. Results vary. Mostly, people just start jogging to the store for more chocolate. It's the mid-1910s, and America is in the throes of a wellness revolution. Everyone is looking for the next big shortcut to health and happiness. Into this hopeful and slightly gullible environment waltzes the idea that chocolate bars, especially Hershey's, are the modern answer to every dietary woe. After all, if it's good enough for soldiers, school children, and nervous grandmothers, why not the aspiring dieter? You, ever the trendsetter, read a magazine article that swears by the new chocolate meal plan. It's simple. Replace a meal, or three, with a Hershey's bar. You'll have the energy of a thoroughbred, the focus of a scholar, and, if the pamphlet is to be believed, the physique of a Greek statue. Plus, it's delicious. No boiled cabbage, no cod liver oil, just the gentle crinkle of foil and a dose of scientific-sounding promises. The testimonials are irresistible. Miss Dottie from Brooklyn claims she lost 6 pounds and finished a hat in one afternoon. A traveling salesman reports running between train cars so fast he arrived in the next town before the train did. There's even a celebrity endorsement. "I owe my entire career to Hershey's bars and optimism," says a vaudeville star whose name, coincidentally, is never the same twice. You stock up and begin. The first day, things are glorious. Breakfast, chocolate. Lunch, chocolate. Dinner, chocolate. And for variety, a glass of seltzer. Your energy is boundless. You alphabetize your spice rack, reorganize your sock drawer, and write 3 lengthy letters to relatives you barely know. The house has never looked better, but by the second day, cracks appear in the plan. Your neighbor knocks to ask why you've mowed both lawns twice and reshingled your own porch roof before lunch. You develop a peculiar craving for celery. The pamphlet warns you might feel mild excitement and occasional cravings for savory items. You press on, convinced that every great achievement requires sacrifice, and another chocolate bar. By day 3, you're not exactly slim, but certainly more energetic. The local grocer comments on your new vitality as you restock for the 3rd time that week. Friends wonder at your ability to recite poetry while jogging in place. You're unsure if you're losing weight or just moving too fast to notice. Of course, the medical community eventually weighs in. Doctors quietly suggest that perhaps a diet of only chocolate is less than balanced. Nutritionists invent new terms like pet plateau and cocoa confusion. The testimonials slow down. People return to more traditional fare. Toast, eggs, the occasional vegetable, though nobody fully abandons their stash of emergency Hershey's bars. The Hershey's bar diet becomes one of history's great, almost trends. Hopeful, delicious, and deeply impractical. Still, for a brief shining moment, America believed that you could eat your way to health, happiness, and possibly a mild caffeine buzz. And really, isn't that what diets are all about? So, next time you reach for a square of chocolate after dinner, smile. You're not breaking any rules, you're honoring a grand, if slightly misguided, tradition. Because sometimes, the best diet is the one that leaves you happier, and with just enough energy to jog to the store for more. And then, like all wild eras, the party comes to an end. New regulations force Hershey's to quietly drop the coca leaf, and suddenly, your favorite snack just feels ordinary. People gather for the last real bar, swapping stories about the good old days. And one by one, America settles in for its first collective nap in 20 years. It's the late 1920s, and you can sense the change in the air, or rather, in the candy aisle. The government, having survived a decade of jazz, prohibition, and slightly too much enthusiasm at school recitals, has decided to tame America's most energetic snack. The new food and drug laws arrive, as relentless as a marching band on a Monday morning. Ingredient lists are scrutinized, recipes rewritten, and every chocolate factory suddenly smells a little more like compliance. Hershey's, ever the icon, makes the switch quietly. No parades, no national address, not even a goodbye buzz commemorative wrapper. Instead, the recipe is subtly altered, the coca leaf extract removed and replaced with nothing more radical than, well, just chocolate. Most people at first don't notice, but then a few do. The regulars, the aficionados, the folks who know the exact snap of a bar at room temperature. They gather in kitchens and porches for what quickly becomes known as the grand unwrapping. You're invited, of course. Friends bring out stashes of the real bars, carefully hidden away for just such an occasion. There are speeches, toasts, and wild claims about feats accomplished under the influence of old-school Hershey's. Remember the time we wallpapered the house in one afternoon? I once learned Morse code just to eat my bar in peace. Someone proposes a ceremonial last taste, and the group falls respectfully silent as the final, slightly crumbly square is split and shared. For a moment, it's as if time slows down. The bar is unwrapped, the chocolate is savored. Eyes close in silent appreciation. Someone starts humming a ragtime tune. A neighbor recalls the great lemonade stand stampede of 1918. Laughter and nostalgia swirl through the room, mixing with the faint aroma of cocoa and possibility. Of course, the party can't last forever. Gradually, the legendary bars are gone, and the new, milder Hershey's takes center stage. People adjust. Afternoon naps become fashionable again. The average backyard project time doubles, but nobody's breaking any limbs trying to build a gazebo before sundown. Teachers report a drop in spontaneous spelling bees. Accountants finally finish the year-end ledgers without writing poetry in the margins. Some refuse to move on, holding secret vintage snack nights in basements, lighting candles around empty wrappers, telling tales to anyone who will listen. Others embrace the new normal, grateful for a world that's a little quieter and a lot less jittery. Hershey's bars become the treat of lazy Sundays, movie nights, and peaceful, if slightly less remarkable, dessert tables. So as you break off a square of your modern chocolate, pause for the past. Think of the grand unwrapping, the last great hurrah for the world's most energetic treat. And as America drifts off for that well-earned nap, smile. Sometimes, the end of an era is just the beginning of a sweeter, slower, and far more restful one. Because if there's one thing history teaches us, it's that you can't outrun change, no matter how many chocolate bars you eat along the way. So tonight, as you slip under the covers in a world where chocolate bars can't double as controlled substances, take a deep, slow breath and give a little nod to the people who survived history's most energetic snack craze. Spare a grateful thought for the parents who bravely handed their children a Hershey's bar, only to watch them attempt to repaint the house, using only the power of interpretive movement. Remember the factory workers who, perhaps unwittingly, spent their days one ingredient away from launching the world's first synchronized office marathon. Maybe reflect on just how far we've come. From an era where invigorating meant chocolate that could double as a party trick,